Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to 2024. Excuse me. We're in 2025. I am one of your co-hosts of Screams from the Basement. I am Casey Kelderman.
And I'm Sam Lenz, and this is an exciting episode. We uh we bust out of the formula a little bit. We're not talking double features. We're each talking 10 movies. 2024 is over. We're saying goodbye to that year by
Bye.
celebrating what horror cinema has to offer. So this is our top 10 list. This is a big episode for both of us. We love this episode. Um and yeah, let's get screaming.
Let's get screaming. Yeah, this is always my most anticipated episode of the year.
Yeah.
I think it's the culmination of the year. We base our stuff on not necessarily like well, I think we build up to this in a way. I do think we build up to this. This is our Super Bowl, our WrestleMania. This is
Yeah.
our year ender. This is our Oscars. This is where the entire year culminates into this top 10 lists. And
Yep.
each of us have our own. And we've talked about this now. It's been a month and a half or so that we've been talking about this episode in particular because it comes down to year end. We got to catch up on stuff we missed.
Yep.
Still didn't watch it all just because
Nope.
that was the year in general. But this episode in particular, it's always my favorite one to do. I'm always excited to do it. But it's also very anxiety inducing of like, okay,
Yeah.
the year builds up to this. This is it. This is the top 10 list. There's no going back. We're not going to do this again in 3 years. Our top 10 movies of 2024. No. This
No.
is it. This is it. So, Sam, before we jump into our top 10 and explain how that's going to work, how did you feel 2024 was for horror movies and horror in general?
I've been pretty loud about this. Like, I think horror is just firing on all cylinders this year. To me, this is the best year for horror movies since 2019, where we got stuff like Us and Doctor Sleep and Upgrade and just like all these just immaculately crafted movies. Um, and I kind of feel that way about horror this year. Um, we started working with Bad Hand Books, and that got us both reading again for, I don't think either of us have been readers over the last couple of years, but this year we like picked up some books and we
Hmm.
read some words. And I read a lot of great horror books this year. We read a lot of great horror
Yeah.
books this year. It's been pretty fantastic for horror. Um, yeah, well, how do you feel in general the year has been?
See, I'm always the person who says there's not a bad year in horror.
Yeah.
I don't think in that terms of that mentality. But this year I've been disappointed in more movies than I have been in previous years, where obviously it was still very hard to come up with a top 10. And I think it's
Mhm.
because some of the most anticipated movies I had aren't going to be on this list. And for me, if you would have told
Yep.
me, at this time last year, hey, this movie, and this movie aren't going to be on your top 10 of the year list, I would have been like, then what the hell is coming out this year? But I think it was a great year overall. Like 2024 was a great year. I think there were some major trends this
Yeah.
year. I think the big one was religious horror
Yeah.
took the front seat in many of the movies I think that we'll talk about this year.
A lot of pissed off women too.
Lots
Just
of lots of angry women. There's
yes.
very few male leading performances I'd be like, that was my favorite of the year, but
Yeah.
female leading performances, this was the year for it.
It was the
Yeah,
year of feminine rage, and
yes.
I was there for that. That was awesome.
So yeah, I think there's a few more talking points that we can have, but those might pertain to our list. So Sam, let's jump into it. Our
Mm.
top 10 movies of 2024. So, how this is going to work, we're going to each go back and forth with our top 10 list. We'll start at number 10, work our way down to number one. If a movie shows up on our list that is higher, meaning closer to that number one spot on one of our lists, we will wait and we'll defer to talk about it until it shows up higher on one of our co-host lists. So,
Yep. Yep. I don't anticipate there will be too much crossover. I think you and I were drawn to very different types of movies this year.
I'm gonna write this down. Sam, how many crossover movies do you think we'll have in our 10 movie list? I think last year we had two, maybe.
I
Was
think maybe
I want to say it
3.
was two.
I think it was 2. This year we might have more. I'm gonna say oh God, this is tough. I'm gonna say 3. I'm gonna say
Okay.
3.
You're gonna say 3. I'm gonna say 2. I'm
Okay.
going to.
Okay.
Because you were telling me earlier today that you took some of them off your list today, and
I
I'm like,
did. I made some painful
yeah,
cuts, and then I reversed those painful cuts, and then I've fucked with my list so
yeah.
much today.
So I think we'll have 2 in common. You think we'll have 3. I wrote them down that way. We had that to talk about at the end of the show, and we'll have some honorable mentions there at the end of the
Yeah,
show as well. But Sam, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. Let's do this.
All right. Do you want me to start, or would you like to start?
Um, I don't know. I feel like you're more unpredictable. I don't know what your number 1 is gonna be. I thought I did, and then you've said things that make me think, "Oh, maybe that's not." I think a lot of people who have listened to the show throughout the year know what my, top 2 probably are.
Sam, I have
So
no idea.
really?
No, I don't.
I
There's
don't think
one of
one of
them
them is
where
gonna be a surprise at
there's one
all.
of them that I know will be close for sure, top 3 for you, but
Yeah.
where everything's gonna fall for you, I have no idea. I can start things off with number 10 because, like I
Okay.
said before we started the show, number 10 for me is one of the easiest ones every year because then you get like 9 to 5 is always my toughest ones because I feel like we got to get serious when we get there. But number 10, I always feel like I can have fun with, and this can be the outside of the box pick. And so last year, my number 10 was a full moon movie.
Yeah. And this year we watched a lot of Full Moon.
We did. And that is
Robin
why.
Sidney was my most watched actress on my Letterboxd stats this year.
Really?
Yes.
Well, she is not in this full moon movie because my number 10, coming in at number 10 for me, is The Prime Evils from David Allen.
Oh,
So The Prime Evils is a 2024 movie. It was released in 2024.
yep.
Production on this movie started 30 years ago, back in the heyday of Full Moon, where David Allen, the amazing stop motion animator and director, he directed Puppet Master 2. He has, like, anytime you see iconic stop motion images of the Puppet Master puppets doing anything, that's the guy. He was he won an Oscar for
Oh, I don't know.
it was on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember. He won an Oscar, so he's an Oscar winning special effects artist, really made a name for himself in that Full Moon, but always his dream project was this, The Prime Evils. Heck, The Prime Evils is it's even on the cover of the Full Moon book, like the retrospective book. It came from the video aisle, and it was a movie that even in that book, they're like, I don't think we'll ever see this movie. I don't think this movie will ever see the light of day. And here we are, 2024. Rolled out the red carpet. Charlie Band did a huge release for this, got a big, like, deluxe box set. It was in theaters as well. It's now on streaming, and that's how I watched it. Basically, the plot of this movie, though, it's like an old school adventure stop motion movie where this, like, young hotshot professor and the older professor at his college, they team up with, like, this scout from another country, and then another scientist who ends up becoming, like, the romantic love interest of the movie. And basically, they're out looking for a Yeti because they've caught one before, and that they know that the Yeti still exists. And basically, it's almost like they go into what's it called in the Godzilla movies, the legendary Godzilla movies, the
Oh,
like
it's
Center
like
Earth.
Inner Earth or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, like, this movie
Hollow
has
Earth.
Hollow Earth. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. This movie has that. They follow the Yeti into, like, Hollow Earth, and they end up, like, with a bunch of other creatures down there. all of a sudden there's like a coliseum and they end up like in a coliseum match with these bunch of aliens that I'm sure everybody has seen the stop motion of the aliens from Primevals. The stop motion in this movie is just incredible. There's so much of it. Like, this movie could not exist without stop motion, and that's why it took so long, because they had to finish the stop motion because David Allen unfortunately passed away a couple of years after principal production on this, and obviously it takes longer when you have stop motion involved. So again, shot 30 years ago, went through hell to find its way, and now it is out there. It's in the world. The Primevals. I loved this movie. It was a fun throwback to like 40s, 50s stop motion Ray Harryhausen type movies, and it is just an absolute blast. So I think for the historical value and my overall enjoyment too, the Primevals had to make my top 10 list.
Yeah, that rules. I love stop motion, and it bums me to say that there were 2 stop motion centered movies this year
One
that
called
were
Stop Motion.
eligible for this list. Yeah, and I missed both of them. I have not seen either yet, and I will remedy that in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Primevals, because that sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My number 10 is the first of 3 French movies I'm gonna have on my list.
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was almost 4. I'm not even gonna lie.
The French are kicking ass in 2024.
The
apparently.
French kicked ass in 2024.
Okay.
As you know, I've been trying to expand my bounds and do more like international film. Get into that. And one of the movies, this is maybe a total recency bias pick here in number 10, but one of the movies that I've recently watched that I just thoroughly enjoyed is Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. This movie is a very quirky coming of age drama about a 68-year-old vampire who has shy fang. She still looks like a teenager because vampires just age slower in this universe. And it opens with her as like a 6-year-old. She's, but she looks 6, but she's a vampire, so she's probably older. And it's like her birthday party. And you don't know anything. I mean, you do because of the title, but like this looks like a normal birthday party. Her parents and her grandma and her cousin are all like very excited, and they got her a gift, and the gift knocks at the door, and it's a birthday clown. And something really funny happens with the birthday clown that traumatizes her because she's an empath. And so like her vampire parents are taking her to all these vampire doctors, and they're saying, well, it seems that humans in agony are triggering her empathy, not her hunger, and that's an issue. And that's like the whole start. That's like just the first, I don't know, 7 minutes of this movie. And then it like kind of flashes forward to her as like a moody teenager, and she finds through a series of circumstances this young man on the cusp of graduating from high school, who is like, when she first meets him, he's standing on the roof of the bowling alley he works at, contemplating jumping off of it. Very dark premise, but it always keeps a pretty light tone, and it handles the premise and the themes very well. It had some really just laugh out loud moments. And it, like it pulled at the heartstrings without being too much. It just, and it ends on the coolest one of the like the coolest vampire, like almost Tarantino-esque sequences at the end, that I won't spoil, but this movie just goes to some places that I wasn't expecting. It's a little bit like A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, but with like a quirky sense of humor about it. And I enjoyed the hell out of this one. So yeah. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, number 1 pick. Or number 10 pick.
Number 10. 10.
Yeah,
number 10. Don't go to 1 yet.
Not 1 yet.
All right. So my number 9 then is one. I'm curious if this is one of the movies you extradited from your list.
Okay.
It is a movie we saw together when we made a trip all the way to Fargo, North Dakota, and that's higher. Michael Mohan. Oh, it's higher. So my number 9 is Immaculate.
Oh,
But
you have no idea how my list is gonna go, do
I
you?
don't know. That's what I said. So we'll wait. We'll wait to talk about it
Yeah.
until it's higher on Sam's list. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're number 9 then.
Excellent choice in number 9, by the way. Immaculate. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your moment there.
No, we're
My
gonna talk about it later. Like,
my number 9 is the second French movie out of 3 French movies that I'm doing. I know, back-to-back French movies. Who would have
yeah,
thought? Um, this
oui,
is
indeed.
this is
That was so dumb. Sorry.
so funny. Um, this is an animal attack movie that made its US premiere on a streaming service. It is Xavier Gem's Under Paris, the shark movie, the
Mm.
action movie Under Paris that it in July was on Netflix. And they released this leading up to the Paris Olympics, where the mayor was talking about cleaning up the Seine River to the point that like athletes could safely swim in it. We know how that went. And this is a very satirical movie that was seemingly somehow prescient of this whole situation at the Paris Olympics because it literally involves a triathlon happening in the Seine River, with a mayor of Paris who is refusing to listen to shark experts who are telling her there are sharks in the Seine. And Under Paris, I mean, that's what it is. It's Sharks Under Paris, and it sounds schlocky, and it sounds like it'd be silly, and I mean, it is, but in, like, a totally badass action horror kind of way, where you've got, like, this cop teaming up with this shark, expert, and they're trying to figure out how to basically save Paris, from all of these sharks that have now just, like they've made their home in the catacombs of Paris. There's a terrifying sequence that starts off the film that does something that I've never seen a shark movie do before and do it really, really well. Like it's brutal. Um, there's a scene about halfway through where a panic happens with a bunch of people in the catacombs. And the worst part of that isn't even the sharks, it's just all of the chaos happening and the bodily harm that is being caused to other people. Like it's got some banger action set pieces, and it ends in a way I've never seen a shark movie end before. They are doing a sequel. I don't think it needs it, but I will 100% be watching it day one when it hits Netflix because this movie ends in one of the ballsiest ways I've ever seen a shark movie end, and I loved it. And I'm excited to see where they take it from there. So, Under Paris is my number 9 pick. I Not a lot of people have been putting I think this went under a lot of people's radars, even though it did really well on the Netflix model. Streaming just, cycles them in and out. So it came in and out of the public consciousness, but this movie fucking rules and people should go check it out. It's yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I forgot that movie was this year
Yeah, I know. Oh, so many people did.
because I knew you loved it. I just forgot it was this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
All right, my number 8. Speaking of
Have
animal
you done your
attack,
number 9?
yeah,
You did for yeah, duh.
yeah, yeah,
Immaculate. Yeah. Yeah.
immaculate. But my number 8. Speaking of creatures, of creature features, my number 8. We had to have this on here. It would have made the list regardless of our personal connection to this movie now. But my number 8 is Anthony Cousins' Frogman.
Higher.
Higher. It made your list.
Higher.
Okay,
It
I'm
did
so
make my
happy.
list.
Yes.
Yeah. No, of course Frogman made my list.
I was worried.
Oh, no.
I
Oh,
think
God,
you
no.
figured I was going to have it on mine. And
No, I
anyway.
figured that was one we were gonna have. Like, that was one that I
Woo!
was like, "We are gonna have this crossover." Like that. Yeah, of
I should
course,
have bet more.
Frogman.
I should have bet more. These were the last 2 were ones I thought were going to not make the list. Okay. All right.
I should have gone higher, I think maybe
Yeah.
because
There's
yeah,
at
I'm not
least
gonna lie. I
there's
wasn't
at
pegging
least
Immaculate Being on yours.
I'm telling you, my 2 that I bet I haven't mentioned yet. So
Oh shit.
yeah.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. You're number 8 then.
My number 8 is Tillman Singer's Cuckoo. I don't know if you have that one on your list.
Honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Ah, so
I
close.
know.
Like my number 11 was
Yeah.
Cuckoo. Yeah.
I knew you liked this one quite a bit. Yeah. Cuckoo is
Cuckoo.
I mean, you said it in your Letterboxd review. It's the horror movie in 2024 that most lives up to its name because it is crazy bonkers bananas. Um, it stars Hunter Schafer in just like fantastic performance. She's so good. Um, going with her parents to live in this complex in the Alps, run by a very hammy Dan Stevens, playing the recorder and being obsessed with cuckoo birds.
If 2024 was anything, sorry to cut you off, but if
Yeah,
2024 was anything, it was the year of Hammy Dan Stevens.
yes, 100%,
Because
100%.
between this, Abigail, and Godzilla versus
Yeah,
Kong, all Hammy performances from the great Dan Stevens.
yep. That guy put his all into all three of those roles, and just I
Probably
hope
the
he
best
keeps
part of
doing.
all three for me.
I
I just love him. Anyway,
I would agree with
yeah.
you on everything except for Cuckoo, and that's just because of Hunter Schafer. I just think she's that good. But, yeah, I just love this one. Less you know going into it, the better. So I'm not gonna, like, talk too much on it. It involves Dan Stevens, a bird/human sanctuary, and a crazy woman in a red jacket that it has some of the most terrifying jump scare sequences, like, not even jump scare, just like, "Oh my god," moments.
Yeah, that moment in the trailer, I'll just bring this one up because it's in the
Yeah,
trailer of
the bike chase.
Hunter riding the bike after she gets off work, and you just see someone out of the corner of your
Yeah,
eye, not even her eye, like out of the corner of
yeah,
your eye, you see someone running, and then you see the shadow behind her getting closer and closer. Incredible stuff. What might be
yeah.
one of the scariest sequences of the year.
Oh, yeah, easily. I was glued to the TV during that sequence. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
this movie's
Cuckoo.
bonkers. It's insane. If you love insane movies, Cuckoo's Cuckoo.
Yeah.
It's definitely one to put on your watch list.
This was the year of Neon too. Like, in my opinion, Neon had 3 releases. Like, one of them's not gonna make my list. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody, but you cannot deny that Neon really knocked, like, 2024 out of the park. They really had it down pat.
I can't think of what the third one is. Maybe we'll talk about it. All right.
You can't think of what the 3rd one is?
Yeah, I know one of anyway. Well, if it comes up, it comes up. I don't know. We'll
Okay.
see.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, that was your number 8 then, right? Cuckoo.
Yes. Yep.
Cuckoo. Okay, yeah. Like I said, so close. If I didn't have a fun full moon movie, it would have been number 10.
Yeah.
All right, then my number 7 one I know that will be a crossover and it will be higher just because of where we're at in our list. It's on the wall right behind you, and that is Lisa Frankenstein.
This is not what I expected on your list. Yes, higher.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I'm just punting
100%.
like all of my
Oh
last
my
3
god.
are literally higher on your list.
Well, that's insane. So your number 7 was Lisa Frankenstein.
That was my number 7.
Okay. Holy shit. We have similar way more similar lists than I thought we were.
Like I said, there's
We're
probably one
gonna
or two more
miss.
down here.
I'm worried that we're gonna miss a few big ones.
Oh, I'm not worried. I got
You're not
mine.
worried?
I
Okay.
got mine.
Well, no, I'm happy with my
Yeah.
list. I love it. There
All
are
right.
just so many good ones.
That was
Anyways,
my number that was my number 7, then Lisa
okay.
Frankenstein. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is your number 8, which is
Okay.
Frogman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frogman fucks.
Frogman fucks. Frogman
Casey,
fucks.
I bought the expensive $68 collector's edition Blu-ray. Of course, this was gonna be on my top 10 list.
Listen, I gotta find where's my Frogman? I don't know. I can't find him. He's in here somewhere.
I
Yeah,
have the scratch and sniff VHS.
I'll say you have the big deluxe version. You have the scratch and sniff VHS. We brought Anthony in as one of our special guests to the Vortex Film Festival to show Frogman.
Yep.
Like this movie would have made my top 10 regardless because I
Yeah.
loved it already when we watched it at home, like right after it had come out.
Yeah.
but watching it for the second time in theaters with a rabid crowd at a film festival that we helped start with Anthony there,
Yeah,
like these are our lists. This is our personal list. I'm not saying, but like well, I do think it's a top 10 movie of the year list. But
it is.
either way, like I think people might call out bias. Yes, there is bias,
But
spoilers, but also it's
per
our personal list. We want to hear
yeah,
other people's lists too if they have them out there. But yeah, Frogman fucks. It's my favorite found footage movie of the year, and I'm a
yep,
found footage nut. When I heard the premise of Frogman and read up about the cryptid, the actual cryptid, because I had never heard of Frogman before,
yeah,
I was like, okay, well, if this can't go all the way into that territory of what this cryptid does, like what his magical powers are, it can't do that, right? Like it's a
and it
found
does.
footage movie, you know, the overall premise is really goofy for the cryptid. Guess what? Anthony Cousins does go there, and Anthony knocked it out of the park. Like just
Yep.
having the entire lore of Frogman included. Great found footage story, a great story about telling stories and being like, this is my life story and I have to tell it, and that motivation to do so by any means necessary. Does a great job of telling that story. Incredible special effects in this movie. The actual practical effects for Frogman are just absolutely
Yeah,
incredible. They're so good. I loved it. And then that third act is just
it's so crazy.
insane in the best way possible. The crowd again at Vortex was losing their minds at that third act.
And you will never in a million years, guess what the final shot of this movie is. Like, never, because
Yeah.
it just ends on such a fucking weird note that, like, you have n yeah, it's fantastic. I won't lie, the Vortex screening 100% swayed me to put I mean, I think this was going on my top 10 anyways,
Yeah.
but, like, the Vortex screening cemented its place on this because
Yeah.
seeing it with a crowd, like, it's so effective. They like, the horror is genuinely horrifying, like, there are some, like, squirm in your seat, like, "Oh, no" moments, you
The
know?
tadpole scene. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, it is just it's gnarly, but it's also so much fun, and it has so much heart. Um, I love this movie. I love this movie. So, Frogman fucks.
Frogman fucks. Man, I love Frogman.
Man, I love Frogman.
All right. So that was my number 8. That was your number 7, correct?
Yep,
Frogman.
yep,
Okay. All right. Well, my number 6 is one I don't think is on your list. It is Alien Romulus from Fede Alvarez.
yep, not on my list. But
Uh,
it no, I don't even have it in my honorable mentions, but I did really like it a lot.
yeah. So I finally got around to watching it. I mean, I love for me the selling point of this movie, and this is probably one of my most hot takes that I could have on horror movies. The alien movies just don't do a lot for me. Like
Mhm.
I recognize how great they are, and they are great movies, but they don't personally have any connection to me. So when I wanted to watch this, it's because of Fede Alvarez, because I love Fede. I love Don't Breathe. I
Mhm.
love Evil Dead, obviously. And so
You
hearing
could
that,
almost call this movie "Don't Breathe in Space."
yeah, 100% is that. There's like an entire sequence where it's literally like that.
Yeah.
And so I was going in with that mindset, and yeah, I had an absolute blast with this movie. I think it's terrifying. I think it has some of the best characters where you have that brother sister
Yeah.
duo where the sister is trying to just get off this planet by any means necessary. Her brother's an android, and like basically his only purpose in life is to protect her, but that can be corrupted because he is an android, but there still is that personal connection between the two. It's I think it's one of the best relationships in movies in 2024.
I
Like I
agree.
said, like I said, the scares are genuinely scary. The sequence in the hall where there's like basically the xenomorph gets loose on this ship, and the sequence in the hall where it just like shows all the xenomorphs on the wall before they hatch or get released is like, oh, skin crawling. And then right after that, in that same hallway sequence, you have the no gravity. where you
Yep.
have all the acid from the aliens like just floating through the air, and our two main characters have to like bob and weave their way through the acid. It's incredible. I know everybody's talking about the cameo. Is that the way to
Yeah.
put? I mean,
Well,
he's a
yeah.
character in the movie. Like,
He's a character. The digital recreation
yeah,
of a likeness.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I thought it was necessary for the plot. I think they probably could have made it practical, is what I know part
Yeah.
of it is. But I think they probably could have gone all practical and it would have looked better. But it is what it is. I thought it worked for the movie and what it needed to be. Love to see Fede do another Alien movie because this one just kicked ass, blew my
Yeah.
socks off. I loved
This
it.
one,
It's my favorite Alien movie. Hot take. It's my favorite Alien movie.
that's hey, it's a great Alien movie.
Granted,
Like, it really is.
I've only seen the first two Alien movies, but like that's the ones everybody picks as their favorite. So I
I
think I have
feel
enough.
I feel like you would like 3. 3
It's
is weird.
one of my goals for 2025
Yeah.
to finally make my way through all of those, especially after seeing this fucked up monster at the end where it's like
Yeah.
the hybrid human
Oh
xenomorph, and
god.
like legit gave me nightmares. That thing was
Yep.
terrifying. Yeah,
The final boss in this movie is next level scary. Like,
yeah,
oh god,
like
yeah.
yeah, pure nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Oh god. Love
All
it.
right, so that's my number six then, Alien Romulus.
'Kay. My number 6, I don't know if you're gonna have this on your list. My number 6 is The First Omen.
Higher.
Higher. Okay.
All right. Well, we've already busted both of our predictions.
Yeah. Isn't that 4 now?
That is four. I'm
Yeah.
curious. Here's another one that I'm curious if it's on your list or not. My number five. Are we in our top five?
Yeah, we're in our top 5
Okay.
now. Oh,
Well, before we do that, let's get an ad read in here before we get to
yeah.
the top five. And one of the ones that we're going to talk about here does have to deal with our one of the movies we'll talk about in a second. But our first sponsor
Oh.
is Fangoria! For over 40 years, Fangoria has been the leading source of all things horror. The famed magazine is back with a vengeance every quarter with new in-depth discussions on the best contemporary horror, like we're talking about today, science fiction, and macabre. Use our affiliate link to save 20% on your annual subscription to the magazine, some back issues that you need to pick up that you might have missed out on, and the latest Fango merch. You can visit shop.fangoria.com/screens from the basement. That's shop.fangoria.com/screens from the basement, and use our promo code screens from the basement to save 20%, or scan that QR code on the screen, or visit our link in the episode description.
Hell yeah.
So, speaking of Fangoria, one of our favorite things throughout the year is the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, which were just a few months away. Sam, do you remember what won Best Kill?
Oh, I'm so glad you put it on this list. Yeah, I remember what won Best Kill.
If it's not this movie, I'm going to feel really dumb, but I'm pretty sure this was it.
Mhm.
Okay, my number five, In a Violent Nature from Chris
Yes,
Nash.
that's
Okay,
oh,
I was like,
I'm
that one
so
won for
glad.
that, right?
Okay,
Okay,
Casey, I've been sweating because it's been sitting in my honorable mentions, but I'm like, it has to end up on one of our top 10 lists. It's the best slasher of the year. It's so goddamn good.
yeah,
That
it's
was
the best. I was like, oh,
that's my number 11, honestly.
okay,
Yep.
yeah, I was like, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's the best slasher of the year. Has the best kill of the year when a Terrifier movie exists in 2024,
Which is insane.
which
Yeah.
is insane because I mean, Terrifier even though I was mid on that movie, had some next level gore and special effects and kills in that movie. For
Yeah.
me, though, like one of the lasting images of 2024 in horror is that yoga kill with the hook.
Yep.
It's gnarly. It's insane. It's one of the most visceral reactions I had to a movie in 2024 of just
Yep.
like yelling at my screen when that scene was happening.
It's
So
so it just keeps going further than when you think than what you think it's gonna do.
yeah,
And yeah, that and then the other kill, the woodcutter scene. I loved that sequence.
Hmm.
I thought it was so nasty, just the idea of being paralyzed and just knowing that this slow blade is coming towards you like, "Oh, no." Just
Hmm.
awful. I love that movie. Ah.
And it's such, I mean, it's so beautifully shot. It's like,
Mhm.
and Chris Nash has talked about this. He's like, we made a nature documentary about a slasher killer. And
Yeah,
that's what this movie is. It's a
it
nature
is.
documentary following Jason Voorhees. And I mean, he's made no discretion about it. This movie, it's a Friday the 13th
Yeah.
riff. Like it's 100% that, except what happens if you're not following the teenagers, you're following Jason Voorhees, from him getting resurrected to him just like overhearing conversations between the teenagers. And it's like, it doesn't matter what these teenagers are saying. What matters is this guy's coming to get them.
Yeah, it's just background noise. Like,
It's
all the
just
stuff that's
background noise.
normally front and center in a horror movie is background noise. The sound design is immaculate. I watched
Zero,
it.
there's zero score in this movie.
Yeah,
It's just the
that's such a
sounds of nature and him crunching leaves as he's walking closer to these teenagers.
it's such a bold choice, and it pays off so fucking well.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. I went to like, my grandparents had their anniversary celebration a week after I watched this movie, and it was, like, out in this like, these cabins in the middle of the woods, and I was going on a walk, and the whole time I was, like, looking over my shoulder every time a twig popped, like, it just that movie got under my skin and freaked me out. Ah, so
Yeah,
good.
it's such a ballsy movie that totally pays off, and it's one
Mhm.
where you know the premise, you understand it's a slasher movie, but you've never seen a slasher like in a violent
No.
nature. Even the third act, even what it ends off on in that in the car conversation
Yeah.
is just, you don't expect that at all. It's not how a slasher movie ends. Having
It's
this like deep, intimate conversation that's a little meta, and yeah, I don't know. It's one of the most unique movies I've seen all year.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. I'm so glad it made your list. I was really bummed to cut it off of mine, but I was like, I think Casey liked this enough to where he'll put it on his, and I'll feel less bad about keeping it off of mine.
Yeah. So that was my number 5, In a Violent Nature from Chris Nash.
Awesome. My number 5 is rounding out the trio of French movies that have just inundated me with so much joy. This is the last movie I watched in prep for this podcast, so recency bias be damned. I loved it. It is the French vampire flick, The Vortilac. This played at the State back in September, I think. And I remember Steven telling me about this when we were talking at one of our late nights that we were hosting. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And he just told me, he's like, "Don't watch a trailer. Like, don't you're gonna love it. When you see what the Vortilac is, you're gonna freak out." Um, and so I don't really want to spoil too much for anybody. All I'll tell you is that we have 50,000 fucking adaptations of Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, and this old Russian, like, folktale novelette thing just needs every adaptation in the world. So a Vortilac is a vampire, a type of vampire that specifically comes back to its family and has to drink the blood and turn their entire family. That's like the Russian folklore around it. Um, and this movie centers around this very like pompous emissary from the King of France. He's a nobleman and he's been attacked on the road and he's lost his horse, his luggage, and his escort. And so he's wandering the countryside looking for help and he stumbles upon this family who is awaiting the return of their grandfather. Their grandfather comes back, but he's very different. And that is all I will say. He just gets caught in the mess of this big family shenanigan type of thing. And what starts as a movie that's like unsettling but kind of mildly humorous just devolves into this like Greek tragedy of epic proportions with some like really out there queer themes. There's a sex scene in the third act that's just like I howled. Like, I don't this movie is wild. The Vordelak is my favorite vampire movie of the year. It's so goddamn good, and it will be on Shudder in January, apparently.
Mhm.
So I am going to implore everyone, if you don't want to just like rent it after hearing about this, you gotta watch it when it hits Shudder because it's just fantastic. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's shot with like the same techniques and lenses as like the silent films. So there's like kind of a hazy quality to the images and like I don't know. I just fell in love with this one. It's so stylistically different. It's it's such a great movie. I loved it. The Lord
Yeah,
Elect.
it's one I do wanna watch. I think I'm gonna end up doing a French vampire double feature, in the
Yeah.
next month or so. Because yeah, that came out in September. I remember that at the state because we were busy
Mhm.
doing all
Yeah.
our shit that month and couldn't make it. So
Yep.
yeah, very excited to watch that. All right, then my number 4. Curious if this one's on your list. I know you love this one. Again, it's another one we watched in theaters together.
Okay.
It is Beck and Woods Heretic.
It's not on my list.
Woo!
That is another
Woo!
one that was vying for, like, that number 10 spot. I literally my 2 top honorable mentions are literally In a Violent Nature and Heretic, and it's because they're the ones that got bumped off. I loved Heretic.
Yeah.
Tell us
Heretic.
why you did.
I mean,
Your number 3, is that
my
right?
number 4. 4.
4, number 4, okay.
Yeah, my number 4, Heretic. Shout out to a couple other Iowa boys, Beck and Woods. You guys
Yeah,
knocked it out of the park with this one. This is easily my favorite movie of theirs. It's easily my favorite script of theirs, and
yeah.
I mean, it's so smart and it's so thought provoking. It, again, I talked about religious horror being a big theme for 2024. This is obviously one of them where these two girls are going around trying to convince people to speak about the Mormon church. And they end up having this meeting uh, with a man who just lives out in the middle of nowhere, says his wife is there. She's probably not there,
Yeah,
and
you
ends
know.
up like just having this big religious discussion with these two girls. Hugh Grant plays the man who's just using all of that Hugh Grant charm that we've known and loved for the past 30 years against
Mhm,
us now. Of okay, we're in. This guy's charming, he's smart, he's poetic. There's something underneath the skin that's off-putting about this guy. Our two female leads are incredible, Sophie Thatcher and
mhm.
Chloe East. I think both of them are, again, talk about kick-ass women for 2024.
Yep.
Both of them fall right into that category. One of my favorite scenes of the year involves Monopoly. Didn't have that on my bingo card for 2024. It's yeah, one of my favorite scenes. It's so thought provoking and intense and unnerving, like all of the above type of scenes. And
And it
it's
makes you
about
wanna go home and light a candle.
yeah, especially a blueberry pie one.
Yeah.
And then when you get into the second act of the movie, where it gets a little more supernatural, and that's all I'll say about it because it doesn't
Or
show any of this,
does it?
or does it? I don't
Like,
know.
that's the thing,
That's
like,
the question.
it's
And
yeah.
even the end of this movie, there's a story about a butterfly flying and flapping its wings, and makes you question everything of like what does that mean? Does that mean anything? Like,
What
does
did
that
you
mean
just
anything at
witness?
all?
Yeah.
What did I witness? And yeah, love this movie. I wish it could be higher because I loved Heretic so much. Like my
Yeah.
top 4 could easily have been my number ones. Like all of these are just absolutely incredible. Absolutely love this movie. Can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's might be the one I'm most anticipating to give a rewatch.
I hope that A24 gives it one of their, like, really special Blu-ray releases on their shop because I it's an instant buy for me.
I know they've been releasing their scripts now. I haven't pulled the trigger
Yeah.
on any of them. I would kill for a Heretic script.
Yeah, same. This is maybe the best written like, I think for me in the back half, it loses me just a little bit for just a little while, but it really sticks the landing,
And I
And
don't think it's a script thing. I think it's just a little long, like 5,
yeah,
10 minutes too long.
yeah, I think that's more what it is. I think it's more of a pacing thing than
Yeah.
anything. Um, but, like, to me, this is Beckenwood's masterpiece so far. Um, my favorite scene of the whole thing is actually the opening scene. I love that conversation that they're having about pornography and, like,
Yeah.
just it just instantly endears you to those 2, and, like, you know exactly, like, what types of religious people they are,
Yep.
and I adore that. Yeah. Yeah, such a powerhouse. I'm bummed that I bumped it off of mine, but I knew you liked it even more than me, so I had faith that you would have it on there.
You had faith.
I had faith.
All right, so that's my
You
number
would be
4.
disappointed.
That's my number 4, Heretic.
Awesome. My number 4, I think you probably have this one? I don't know. My number 4 is The Substance.
Whoa! Number 4.
Yeah.
Mine is higher.
Okay.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't know what your top 3 is. This
You
is
know 2 of
insane.
my top 3 now.
Yeah, apparently, but there's one more on there. I stumbled on what that could be. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the substance is higher on my list. So my number
Okay.
3 is one that was lower on your list that
Okay.
we're talking about. The First Omen.
Yeah. Oh, The First Omen.
So the First Omen, what did you have this at again?
I had this one at number 6.
Number 6. Okay, so my number 3, The First Omen. Yeah, I love this movie again. Talking about again religious horror. It's my favorite religious horror movie of 2024. It's my favorite of somehow we got 3 of these of like the Antichrist being born. It's my favorite one.
Yep.
We'll talk about another one later with on your list. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess that one's next. But anyway, the First Omen, it's so beautifully shot. It's one of the best shot movies of the year. Nell Tiger Free maybe delivers my favorite female performance of the year. I don't know. She's definitely up there. I think she's just
That's a
incredible in
it's a
this
stacked
movie.
year for that,
It's a
isn't it?
stacked year for that. The birthing scene, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so
Which
unnerving.
one?
Yeah,
There's
the
literally 2 in this movie.
yeah,
Oh,
the fake out one, I
the
guess.
fake out one, yeah. That
Yeah,
one,
I did not see
ooh,
that coming. Yeah,
nope. I don't know if I've ever come so close to, like, almost passing out in a theater from, like, some of the stuff I was watching, and not just the birthing scene, but just, like, some of the violence in this just hits. There's a guy that gets bisected by a car that
hmm
just, like, there was something about that, like, I've seen stuff like that in movies so much, but the way they pulled it off, just this movie, like, it it hits you right in the ribs, like, and it does not let out. It's just
and then you have the everyone's calling the possession scene, and somehow we've
yeah,
gotten so much. We need. I've never seen that movie. Have you ever seen
I
Possession?
haven't. We should
Okay,
we should cover it on the podcast,
we should
yeah.
do that on the podcast. Please, anyone out there listening, drop us a comment. What movie should we pair with Possession?
And if you
That's
see
not
Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, I will kick you.
that's not Nosferatu or the First Omen. Something that didn't come out in 2024. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, like the devil images, especially that third act. The third act is
Yeah.
bonko cuckoo, insane devil imagery, and
Yep.
that stuff just gets under my skin when it's done right, and this one does it perfect. It might be
Yeah.
higher on my list if it wasn't for the tag at the end. Like the tag at the end
See,
is
that's why it was number 6 on my
yeah.
I almost took that one off in lieu of, like, Heretic, or it was kind of between that one or Heretic and, In a Violent Nature, like,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know.
not it's not enough to ruin the entire movie for me or anything like that. I just think it's so unnecessary and
It's
very
a
much like
clunky note to end on.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
feels very much like the studio's like, "Well, you gotta put this piece
You
into it,"
you have
versus
to
the rest
connect
of the
it to
movie.
this 40-year-old movie.
Yeah, all the kids will recognize, Gregory Peck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, everything you can basically just check out for the last 5 minutes, and it's a perfect movie, essentially. Um, Yeah, that stinger's the only thing. Like, I can't believe the like this. I couldn't believe that a major studio put this movie out. A
Yeah.
Disney-owned studio put this out because it was maybe the most unnerved I've been all year in a horror movie. Like, it's just completely unsettling and destabilizing in the best way. Yeah.
Yeah. Loved it. First Omen. First Omen rules.
Okay.
All right. That was my number three. My
Um,
number three.
my number 3 is the flip side of that coin. My number 3 is Immaculate. I fucking love Immaculate so much. It's the fun popcorn B movie version of the first
The
Omen.
First Omen. Yeah, sure.
It's just as angry and just as pissed off and just as like, fuck you, but it does it in like a almost like Frank Henenlotter kind of way towards the end. I don't know, just the mad sciency bullshit, I
Yeah.
don't know.
In a B
Maybe
movie way.
yeah, in a B movie way, I suppose. It doesn't really go Henenlotter. There's another movie we'll talk about that does. But no, I think Sydney Sweeney gives one of the performances of the year here. Like the last the last 3 minutes of this movie are what just cement it in stone as like this is one of my favorite movies of the year. Um for as like I know I've heard people call like a lot of this movie safe and kind of just like it's popcorn horror and it is. But for a popcorn horror movie that you're kinda having fun with, like, you're laughing less than 10 minutes before that ending. And for that ending to hit as viscerally as it does, like, it's just masterful. I love this movie. I love the cojones on it. I love that it was a passion project for Sydney Sweeney, and I think you can see that in her performance and just the way this movie is made. She was very hands-on as a producer. Some of the imagery is gorgeous. Her, like, dressed as the Virgin Mary after the immaculate misconception that isn't immaculate. Like,
Mhm.
so I don't know, or Immaculate Conception.
Yeah.
Immaculate Misconception is a Muslim White album. Um,
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
yeah,
the
Immaculate.
point you just made is the reason it's not higher on my list is that third act is incredible. I like the first two acts, but like unlike the first Omen, I don't think enough happens during those first two acts to give us little teases of what's to come versus the first Omen kind of has it throughout the entire movie. Yeah, the overall setting is really what does it for me. The setting of that Italian church during this is like during what the 50s or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
like 50s or 60s, something.
Yeah.
No, wait, what the priest has a cell phone.
Is it?
Yeah, in the car.
Is it modern day?
It's modern day. It's just set in a really old building,
I guess. Yeah. It's
and nuns have
been a
old
while.
history. Yeah, oh god. So, like you said when you first brought it up, we drove all the way to Fargo, North Dakota opening night to see this. Um, Mostly because we thought it was opening the weekend after and we were getting to see it early, but also because it was a cool film festival and one of the producers was there and doing a post-screening Q&A. And that's honestly one of like we have a lot of memories from 2024. That's one of my favorites. Like I had a blast doing that. That was so much fun.
Yeah, that
And the
was so much
Fargo
fun.
theater is beautiful.
Loved that theater. I would love to go back
Mhm.
this year. Yeah, and anytime you get a Q&A with any movie, for me, it just adds just another level to that experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, so that's your number three. That was my
That is
number
my number
nine.
3.
Immaculate. All right, top two. We both have movies in our top two that are not on the other person's list.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
All right, my number two is a movie you brought up earlier, The Substance.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good.
The Substance, I didn't know what to expect going into this movie. Again, talking about theatrical experience added to
Mhm.
the vibe of it, where the State Theater just put on this absolutely incredible presentation before the movie where they had the score for The Substance playing and like the theater was just thumping, the lights were strobing pink and green. It
Yep.
was so incredible. And again, I think back to back talking about Immaculate and The Substance aren't neither are subtle in terms of what they're
No.
trying to say. And I think I love that about the Substance especially. I think Immaculate's message is like the just those final 30 seconds
Yeah.
and like how in your face it is versus The
Literally,
Substance.
yeah.
Yeah, the entire movie is just this is what we're doing. We're talking about aging women and how if they're younger and more beautiful and if then people will pay attention to them again.
Yep. Like, it's all about society's expectations and what you
Mhm.
can do when you put too much weight on societal expectations, and just yeah, it's a big feminist middle finger with 2 knockout performances, like, Margaret Qualley and okay, yes, 3, because Dennis Quaid is very good
He's the
playing.
grossest part about the movie.
Oh, he is. In a movie full of body horror, a scene of Dennis Quaid eating shrimp is the most gag-inducing
Mhm.
thing in the whole movie.
And the way he's shot with like
The
this like
fisheye
the
lens, like
fisheye lens, the every time you see Dennis Quaid, he's just like right up in your face as this
yep,
nasty producer of I,
pockmarked and sweaty and just like,
yeah,
oh
always wearing like over the top suits and
yeah,
just disgusting. And I
telling
just
women to smile.
uh, that drives me nuts.
Yep.
Yeah, and like the I just love that this movie just doesn't take place in any actual reality.
No,
Like
it's a
the big
total fable.
total fable, like it takes place in a universe where like 80s style fitness videos are like the hottest thing on television. And a New Year's Eve party is like the most watched thing
And it
in
has nudity, like full-on nudity in it.
what?
The New Year's Eve the
Oh, the New
televised New
Year's
Year's Eve
yeah.
special?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's,
It's
like,
just this
topless women in the background. They put out TV ads for TV personalities in the newspaper.
yeah. It's just a wild universe, one of a
Yeah,
kind. Yeah, I love this movie. Demi Moore is incredible. I mean, there's been Oscar buzz. I hope it happens just
I
because
do too.
I think she's incredible in this movie. I think the movie's incredible. Um,
The scene where she's, like, all kinda, like she's under very heavy prosthetic, I'll just say that, and she's cooking in her apartment is, like, genuinely that's one of the
watching
scenes
TV.
that's yeah, she's, like, watching TV and, like, getting more and more pissed off at what's going on the TV, and she's cooking frantically, and, that might be the scene that stuck with me the most out of that entire movie that's full of, like, sequences that just, like, imprint on your brain and will not let up. It's yeah.
The way they shoot Margaret Qualley, just like she's like constantly glistening, and it's like just gratuitous shots the entire movie. Like it's shot like a Michael Bay movie at any
Yep.
time she's on screen.
So, I
Total
did see
satire.
somewhere that, they hired a special camera operator that specialized in butt shots to shoot all of the shots of Margaret Qualley's butt in that movie,
Hmm.
and I'm like, "Did they just" like, literally, my first thought when I read that was like, "Did they get, Michael Bay cinematographer
Yeah.
then?" Because, like, that's kinda what that feels like, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, total like male gaze parody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's yeah, it's so unsubtle about what it's trying to be, and I love it for that. It's a masterpiece. Full like, honestly, my top 4 could all be my number 1. Like, The Substance was the start of, like, these are my perfect movies that, like yeah, this is it.
Yeah. The Substance, it's the most critically acclaimed Frank Henenlotter movie to exist.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic. That was your number 2?
That was my number 2, The Substance.
Okay, my number 2 is one you already mentioned. I cannot quite remember, which place you had it in, but my number 2 is Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, it's a Sam Lens list. It wouldn't be complete without a teen girl horror on it. And Lisa Frankenstein is, like, kinda one of my favorite teen girl horror movies that I've seen in a very long time. It's written by Diablo Cody, who wrote the severely underrated Jennifer's Body. And she knocked it out of the park again with Lisa Frankenstein. I actually think I like Lisa Frankenstein even more. This movie features just a stunning performance from Catherine Newton as Lisa. Not her last name isn't Frankenstein. I forget what her last name actually is. Swallows. Yeah, Lisa Swallows.
Yeah.
Such a mean last name. um, and yeah, she's kind of like an outcast. She's really weird and like not really social since her mom got murdered by an axe murderer wearing a Bride of Frankenstein mask, and that's just never revisited in the movie. It's just a weird backstory for a weird girl who is just trying to find love. And she accidentally reanimates a Victorian era corpse from a graveyard that she likes to hang out in, and they set off together to find him body parts from all the icky men and one poor guy that just kind of didn't necessarily deserve that, but I guess he's, gone now. I love that this movie is basically just one feature length film version of a penis joke. That yeah, I don't know. Lisa Frankenstein got a bitchin' soundtrack. Carla Gugino is just cheesing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, Liza Soberano, who plays Taffy, the sister, so fucking funny.
So funny in this movie.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, she almost steals the whole movie. Her every line reading, especially when she's on the phone with the cops describing her mom, is like the best thing ever. I love it. Yeah, this movie was my number one for so much of the year, and I almost still had it in number one today. I love this movie. I think I've watched it 5 or 6 times this year. So yeah, Lisa Frankenstein, incredible.
Yeah, that was my number 7.
Okay.
I loved
I
it.
love that that's on your list. I love
Yeah,
that.
for again, it's no secret, like modern teen movies just don't do it for me. And
Mhm.
I mean, this one's R-rated.
No, it's PG-13.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
There's a
PG-13,
flying penis in the air at the end.
but you only see the shadow of it.
That's insane that got through then. I think our two leads are incredible. I think this is the most Tim Burton movie that we've got in over 25 years, and Tim Burton had nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah, and Tim Burton
And,
had a movie come
and he
out
had
this
a movie
year.
that came out this year that I liked, but like
Yeah, it's
this
a
one,
good movie.
Lisa Frankenstein out Tim Burton in the same year.
Yes,
This movie is
100%.
basically Corpse Bride meets Heathers meets
Mhm.
Freaky. Like that's what this movie is. I think it melds all those things perfectly. It might be my favorite of like modern teen horror movies. It's definitely up there. I thought it was super funny. The romance works. All
Yep,
the imagery has now become iconic for Lisa Frankenstein.
yep,
Yeah, this movie rules. Can't wait to watch it again.
yeah. Fantastic movie. Alright, Casey, you're number 1.
All right, should we go from 10 to 1 and make the number 1 the big reveal here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so this is my top 10 horror movies of 2024. Number 10, The Primevals. Number 9, Immaculate. Number 8, Frogman. Number 7, Lisa Frankenstein. Number 6, Alien Romulus. Number 5, In a Violent Nature. Number 4, Heretic. Number 3, The First Omen. Number 2, The Substance. And number 1, Longlegs.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, it's the one movie that I've seen multiple times this year. I saw it back to back nights opening weekend. Directed by, written by Oz Perkins, starring Micah Monroe, who is maybe my favorite actress working today, who is
She's so good in this movie.
just so incredible in this movie. Nicolas Cage is just doing a performance that only Nicolas Cage could do in either You love it or you hate it.
Mhm.
There's no in between on this. The marketing for this movie is marketing of the year for
Yeah.
any horror movie, of just keeping you in shadows of like, what does Nicolas Cage look like? What is Longlegs? What even is this movie going to be? And right away from the opening, you get the full glimpse of Nicolas Cage.
Only for
And
a split second,
for a
though.
split second, it's so
Oh,
good. It's so good.
yeah.
Uh like there's so many quotes from him like that have been running through my mind this past year. I just can't shake this movie. Is why it's number one.
Yeah.
I I love Longlegs. I still have the same problems that everybody else has, but it doesn't shake my love for this movie.
That's
Nicolas
fair.
Cage singing like, if you ask me to leave, I'll come back, not once, not twice, but as many times as I'd like. Him singing like yell singing mommy daddy in his car. His scene at the like convenience store is so just weird and off-putting. And then when they
That's my
find
favorite scene with him in it, yeah. The
yeah, that scene,
convenience store one.
the
Yeah, yeah.
his cuckoo
Yeah.
scene. Him getting captured is like just so unsettling, unnerving. He's just standing in the middle of the road, like
It's a
with his
beaut
luggage.
it's a beautiful shot.
It
It's
is.
yeah.
It's so weird and unnerving. The scene with him and Micah Monroe in the interrogation room is he's incredible on a here's the thing. I think the two of them are in a different movie, and for me that works
Yeah.
because it's so weird, especially watching it a second time, where the first time it was very anxiety inducing. Longlegs was, especially when you have the first part where Micah Monroe is investigating Longlegs and trying to figure out who this serial killer is, and they end up at this house because of this intuition that Micah Monroe has, and her partner gets killed and just gets like shot point blank, and it's so unnerving and unsettling. And it still is even on a second watch. But from that moment on, the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? I'm going to get terrified. This thing is, I don't know what to expect at all. I mean, the scariest scene in the movie for me is when Micah Monroe's in the house by herself and she's like
Yeah.
investigating and she's going over all of her paperwork, and there's just a shot of like an open door behind her, and you can see like
Mhm.
almost all the way into the rest of the house, and nothing happens. I love that. It's so
Yep.
unnerving. It's so unnerving because you're like, well, something's going to come from there, or it's going to come from the other side because that's where our eyes is not drawn to, and nothing comes from either of it, and it's still terrifying. The third act obviously has problems. I still think it has some great imagery and great moments. It
It's
is one
got
of
the
my
best line of the year.
yeah,
It's
I
got
was
the
gonna
best
say
line of the third. I did not like the third act of this movie, but that one line, bone chilling. Love
uh,
it.
yeah, the line of
Oh,
it's
he said it's Blair Macon's line, and
yeah,
he says, like, his wife says something like, "We'll be right back," and he responds with,
I will.
"No,
You'll still be
I'll
in
be
the
back.
kitchen.
You'll still be in the kitchen."
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Oh.
especially in the context of the scene, you're just like, "No, no, 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 no."
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
movie deals again, religious horror, occult,
Mhm.
devil imagery. I think it has my favorite devil imagery of the year, of just this black veiled person with like
Yeah, that's
glowing
pretty
red
freaky.
eyes. Super freaky.
Yep.
Ends with Nicolas Cage saying "Hail Satan." Yeah, long legs rules. It's my favorite movie of the year. It's one I can't shake, and it's one that I'm going to go back and continuously rewatch for so many different reasons and find a new appreciation for it. I think every single time I watch it.
Yeah. I I'm looking forward to rewatching that one eventually, because, yeah, the first 2/3 of that movie to me are perfect, and then I just it loses me, so, I don't know. I find the answers in that movie less intriguing than the questions,
Yes, I'll agree
but
with it.
at the same time, like, the way it's acted, the way it's shot, the way it's just like, we didn't even talk about Alicia Witt, who's just next level who would have known that the final girl from Urban Legend would give what I think is an Oscar-worthy performance in this movie.
I will say, if people have not watched Longlegs yet, and all you've heard is silent, like a modern Silence of the Lambs, it's not.
No,
Don't have
it's
that in
not.
your mindset. It's something completely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's someone investigating, like it's a female investigating a serial killer. That's the only relation it has to
yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. So
That and it's set in the 90s, but
yeah,
yeah, no.
Giant Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had the biggest jump scares of the year in that
Yeah.
movie.
Like I said, Neon crushed it this year.
What? Okay,
Long
what's the?
Legs, Immaculate, and Cuckoo.
Oh, Cuckoo was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fucking fantastic.
yeah.
Just great year, Neon.
All right,
Congratulations.
Sam. what is your number one?
All right. So my number 10
Yeah.
was Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. 9, Under Paris. 8, Cuckoo. 7, Frogman. 6, The First Omen. 5, The Vortilac. 4, The Substance. 3, Immaculate. 2 is Lisa Frankenstein. And number 1 is I Saw the TV Glow. I saw this movie at the State on the last day that I was able to see it at the State. I was actually able to get to it, and I was so excited. And I'm really glad I did, because I think had I watched this movie outside of the theater for the first time, it's it's very tonal and kind of dream logic and very like flat throughout. Like it's a very not monotone movie, but it's very level throughout. Um, and I know my brain and I know myself at home, and I do not do well with those movies at home. But since I watched it in the theater and I was just in it, I adored this movie. It took me on an emotional journey. I think anybody that's ever felt ostracized or a little different or never being fully comfortable with who they are or with how society views them, this movie's gonna hit like a ton of bricks. Um, it's basically like it's been bluntly stated by director Jane Schoenbrunn that this is a trans allegory, and they wanted to make sure that they avoided the tropes and cliches of trans cinema in the past. The things like it's got to be a tragic story that ends in death. It's got to have a coming out scene. All of that. So like none of that is present here, but it's very clear in what it's trying to do. I don't think this is a subtle movie at all. Um, Justice Smith, who is not an actor I particularly he's just never really worked for me in a lot of movies. Incredible in this movie. It is a subdued performance from him until it is not. And in the moments where he does go big, he earns it. And it's a very good performance. Um, Bridget Lundy Payne, they have a monologue in the third act that is just jaw dropping. Like some of the most existential shit I've ever heard in a movie, where I was like, it feels like it is speaking directly to me. And basically it is. But it like this, it's just, I don't know. This movie made me feel like nothing else this year. The ending is not what you expect. It ends on kind of a gut punch a little bit, but not in like a typical gut punch way. But it also has a little hope to it. And I don't know. I remember driving home from the State in like complete silence. And it wasn't until I got home that I kind of had like an emotional response to the movie. Like it took a while to set in. And it's one that I haven't stopped thinking about. I bought the Blu-ray from the A24 shop. I've watched it 2 more times since then at home, and it still just sucks me in. Like I'm not drifting off anywhere. Like I'm just so zeroed in on this story and these characters. I still have not seen Jane Schoenbrunn's We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is their previous movie. I 100% have that on my watch list in 2025 because this is like, I saw the TV Glow as not just my favorite horror movie of the year, but it's my favorite movie of the year. There's nothing else like it. It's got 90s nostalgia, but not in an over the top, like, we're calling it out way. Like, it captures that 90s culture. It captures when you had to, like, catch your favorite show on the television. It captures the sweet, sweet taste of Fruitopia. Do you remember Fruitopia, Casey?
Fruitopia. Oh my god.
Fruitopia makes an appearance in this movie. Like, it unlocks a part of my brain. Fred Durst is in this, and he's a role, but he only has one line of dialogue, and otherwise he is just a presence, but he is perfect in the
Fred
way this
Durst shows
movie.
up in two '90s movies this year. That's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't he in Y2K?
He's in Y2K as
Yeah,
himself, I guess.
I d I kinda wanted to get to that before we made this list, but I just didn't get to it.
Yeah, it was in and out of theaters too quick. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So, yeah, I saw The TV Glow as my favorite movie of the year, and, people haven't seen it, check it out. It's not gonna be for everybody. It's a very strange, melancholy, kinda sad experience, and there are gonna be people that argue with me and tell me it's not horror, and, yes, it's horror. It's existential horror, and it's the same thing.
Mhm.
So good. So, yeah, that's
Uh,
my list.
all right. Well, that's our list. Yeah,
We did that
2020.
in way less time than I thought we
We
were going
did. We did, which is good.
Yeah.
I think part of it is we had so much crossover.
Yeah.
So rounding out our list, we had 5 movies crossover between the two of us in our top 10 lists, which were Immaculate Frogman, Lisa Frankenstein, The First Omen, and The Substance, all crossovers between our two lists. 5 movies this year. That's
That's crazy.
surprised the hell out of me.
Yep.
Let's get to. I have 3 honorable mentions I want to throw out here.
Okay.
One of them we already talked about, which was Cuckoo.
Mhm.
Like like I said again, my number. It was my number 11, so close to that top 10 spot.
Yep.
One recent one that we both watched together in the theaters, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Again, I think we haven't talked about this yet, I guess, on the show.
Yeah.
Um, I liked this movie a lot. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and people might be like, "You gave a movie 4 stars on Letterboxd, and it's not in your top 10." I can't deny how incredible this movie is. It's shot
Mhm.
just amazing. Like the cinematography in this movie is just absolutely incredible. The imagery that Eggers shows, again, almost every frame could be a painting, just like any other Robert Eggers movie. Performances are all incredible. Lily Rose Depp, I think, gives again one of my favorite performances of the year. But the thing is, I think I'm just burnt out on the Bram Stoker's Dracula story, which is the exact same story for Nosferatu. This one definitely leans more into the Bram Stoker story than it even does the original German version of the film.
Yeah.
And I wish it leaned more into the German film a
Yeah.
little bit more. Not taking anything away from it, but had this movie come out probably when it was supposed to in like 2017, 2018, it would have made
Woulda hit.
it would have hit. It would have hit and it would have made my top 10 easily. And it's totally a me thing on why this didn't make my top 10 list.
Yeah. I Yeah, I guess I can give my thoughts on it. Like, this isn't even in my honorable mentions, and that's not a slight on it. Like, it's a beautifully made movie. Just I felt no emotional connection to it. Like, I was just weirdly disconnected from everything. I actually really like Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu. I love the makeup and the character design of him. I know that's been a source of contention, but honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Um, yeah, this one just kinda bounced off me, and I think it's because I was expecting something a little different or something more from Eggers than what I ended up getting,
Yeah.
and otherwise, it just kind of felt like another Dracula movie just told with his flourish, which I like his flourish. It's just not enough for that movie to, like it's not enough for it to boost that movie into, like, "Oh, I love this," for
Yeah.
me, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Last one I will throw out here is a movie that is on YouTube right now, Milk and Cereal.
I wondered if this would make your list because I know you talked very highly of this one.
Yeah, I dug this one a lot. It is, again, something completely unique and something. This is the trend I see horror going, and I think we're gonna look back 5, 6, 10 years from now, back at Milk and Cereal, and be like, that was a game changer for what it's doing, because it's basically, I mean, it's this YouTuber that does pranks with his friends, but this prank gets way out of hand between the two friends and starts to become very, very real. And this guy's YouTube channel, the kid that made this, does prank videos.
Mhm.
And so it like blurs that line of, is this just a YouTube video or is this a movie? What's that line between reality and fiction? And it plays
Yeah.
it so well. I think we're gonna get more and more movies that just, again, he's like, I didn't want to try to release it theatrically, and I didn't want to get distribution. Just put it on my YouTube page.
That's awesome.
I think we're just gonna get more and more of that.
I
And
think we are too.
I mean, it's been on so many people's top 10 lists for a movie
Mhm.
that, again, this guy put it on his YouTube page. I
Yep.
think we're gonna get more and more of that as internet horror starts to become more and more prevalent. Like, I'm kind of surprised there's not like a full length Backrooms movie on YouTube yet. There might be,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, this is one that, like, even, like, big publications like Fangoria and Bloody Disgusting were covering, like,
yeah.
this made waves, and I just thought that was really cool. I have not gotten to that one yet. That's another one that has been on my watch list, but, yeah, I can't wait to check that out.
How about you? What's on your some of your honorable mentions?
Well, you were able to put In a Violent Nature and Heretic on your list. Those were, like, the ones that I was really struggling with, taking off of mine. One from, like, way early in the year, and perhaps my second favorite slasher of the year, Founder's Day. Uh, we, um, we interviewed, Eric Bloomquist for that movie, and I had a blast with it. It felt like a throwback to, like, those like, the kinda Scream era, like,
Hmm.
super glossy slashers. It has a wild 3rd act where the killer reveal just gets ridiculous. And, I don't know, I particularly just found that one fun, and I haven't revisited it since earlier in the year, but, like, it's one that pops into my head all the time, and I don't know, I chuckle thinking of certain scenes from it, so, yeah, Founder's Day, check that one out, everybody. Um, M. Night Shyamalan's Trap is one that was on my top 10 off and on throughout the year. I loved this movie. This is my favorite, like, I think this is my favorite Renaissance M. Night movie. Like, I've watched
Even more than The Visit.
yeah, even more than The Visit. I This movie just works for me.
Hmm.
It's so wild and crazy, and I get why people don't like it because it's got a wildly messy back half. Like, the concert is surprisingly little of this movie,
Yeah.
and I think that's what I liked about it was, like, we got out of the concert, and I was like, "Wait, what's happening?" And the movie just keeps
Oh,
going.
I was too, and then I was like, go back to the concert.
No, I loved it. It felt like it kept zagging when I expected it to zig, and, like, I could see where that would be
Yeah.
frustrating for people, and, like, no, that's not what I wanted, but I was just like, "Ah, hell." I mean, I got a haircut a few months ago, and, like, I was talking to my hairdresser about movies, and she literally was like, "Yeah, I don't watch much horror. I did see one, though. It was about a guy that was trapped in a concert, and he was a serial killer." I'm like, "Trap?" And I was getting so excited thinking, like, she was gonna love it, and she's like, "Yeah, it sucked." And I was just like, "Ah, I feel like I'm alone on this boat, but I really love Trap." So, and then what could have been the 4th French horror movie on my list was, Shudder's Infested,
Mm.
the spider
Mhm.
movie. Did you see this one?
I did.
Yeah. The reason it's not on here is because the 3rd act kind of loses what I loved so much about the first that was kind of a common theme this year, like,
Yeah.
there were a
Yeah.
lot of 3rd acts that just kind of lost me,
I won't say people
this
are
year.
yelling at us for not having like Late Night at the Devil or Late Night of the Devil on
That's one
on
of
our
them that
list, you know?
yeah. Yeah, that's one of them that kinda yeah, I loved it for the first 2/3, and then the 3rd act kinda dropped off for me. But, and Infested is a little bit like that, where, like, when it all of a sudden isn't a spider movie anymore, I'm kinda like, "Okay." Like, this I get what you're doing, I didn't care for it quite as much. But that said, there is a timer like, scene that's very similar to the Alien Romulus scene in that movie that is just as intense, and so check out Infested. It actually would make a pretty decent double bill with Alien
Mhm.
Romulus. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
that's it.
We-
That's pretty much what I got. Oh, yeah, and check out Oddity. Oddity was really fun.
mhm.
That was a last-minute watch that I slipped in that unnerved me, but wasn't quite enough to bump it up onto my list.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm surprised A Quiet Place Day One didn't make your list. I was a little
So, the reason it didn't was because I felt like I know A Quiet Place is horror, but to me, that movie's more of a drama that just has, like, a horror movie backdrop,
okay.
if that makes sense, and also, like, it's a big studio movie, everybody saw it, like, everybody knows it.
I haven't watched it yet. That was
Oh, Jesus, you haven't?
I haven't watched that. That I saw the TV Glow and Smile too, were the big three that I didn't get to. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Casey should check out A Quiet Place Day One, and honestly, if you're one of the people that haven't, I definitely recommend it. It was one of my five-star movies. Like, if this wasn't a horror-specific list, it would have been top 5, but I don't know, I wanted to put some, like, weirder underseen ones on
Yeah.
there, and I was like,
I wanted to
"That's"
put the Vortelak. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
exactly.
I get it.
Like, I wanted to let people know, like, "Hey, these ones exist too." But yes, A Quiet Place Day One is tremendous, and people should check it out.
Mhm. All right. Well, that is our top 10 movies of 2024. Please leave a comment with your top 10 list. Let us know
Yeah.
if you're watching us on YouTube. Just leave a comment here on YouTube. If you're following us on social media, just drop a comment right below this post that you found this podcast at. So just let us know what your top 10 horror movies of 2024 are. And Sam, let's get to our final ad read before we get to our plugs and what people
Yeah.
can expect for 2025.
Well, are you looking for that extra buzz while watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? How about melting your mind while watching The Substance? With a substance, perhaps?
Whoa.
Well, Turp Boys Delta 8, 9, and THCA gummies, vapes, chocolates, and more has you covered. This plant based product is made from the purest organic hemp based extracts and backed by third party laboratories. Laboratories.
Laboratories.
You can visit buyturpboys.com/screams from the basement pod or scan the QR code if you're watching on the tube. And use promo code Screams from the Basement Pod at checkout, and you can save 10% on your order.
All right. Thank you, Turp Boys. And thank you all for listening. Again, 2025, we think the biggest plug I have for what people can expect in 2025, go to our Patreon. You can go to
Yeah,
patreon.com/screams from the basement. Sign up for our $5 tier. We're telling you guys, $5 tier, because you're going to get a huge bonus episode that we just dropped on our
mhm,
Patreon. Tier ranking over 30 movies coming out in 2025, over 30 horror movies coming out, and we tier rank them from our most excited to our least excited. So many movies coming out in 2025. Our top 10 list next year, it's already going to be a tough one.
yep, it looks like it's gonna be another banner year for horror.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep. So again, go to patreon.com/screams from the basement. Screams is capitalized, basement is also capitalized, or just scan that QR code on your screen, or just go down to our links in the episode description.
yeah,
Also, if you sign up for our $5 tier, you get bonus episodes each and every month, written reviews, and collection videos from our collections. And for $1 a month, if that's more your speed, we would love to have you there as well. You'll get a monthly newsletter and a signed 8x10 art print from Sam.
mm,
Oh, do you
come
have it?
on.
Do you have
I
it? Do
do,
you have the
I
art?
have it. I have it right here.
Hey, look at that. It's even signed by
Ooh.
both of us. Look at that. thing of beauty right there. Sam, if they want to follow us on social media and if they want to listen to our back catalog of this podcast, where can they do so?
Well, you can subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Or also, you can watch the show on YouTube if you like seeing our faces. I mean,
I don't know why you would, but
I don't know why you would either, but we're not here to judge.
no. Just each other, not
just
you
each other, yeah.
Yeah.
Just each other for not putting A Quiet Place Day 1 on the list.
Good judge.
You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok. We're posting on there. We're, doing our stuff. You can get updated on state theater shenanigans and all sorts of stuff. Film Fest stuff coming up. We're in a new year. That means we're
our horror con
stuff. Our horror con, yes. Oh my god.
Our horror con that we've been announcing some of our first guests that are coming to the show. So for
the thing we're currently planning.
Yes, we're currently planning. Anyway, go find that on our social media. We're not gonna plug it right now. So
yeah. And you can also check out our merch on tpublic.com.
Hey,
search Dreams from the Basement, and you can get some cool swag that supports the show. We get a little kickback. It's fun.
We'll get some new merch out there for 2025. I got ideas I actually need to talk to you about after the show. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Sam, do you have any other final thoughts on 2024 before we wrap this episode up and look forward to the future?
2024 was a great year. It was a great year for horror movies. It was a great year for the pod and us and everything we're doing. And I'm looking forward to 2025 being more of the same.
2025, bigger, better, basement year.
Basement year, yes.
Yes. Yeah. 2025, bigger, better, basement year. I might need to workshop that a little. So anyway,
it's perfect.
Sam, give us that sign off.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and sweet screams.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.